Have you ever prayed and heard nothing? You asked God for direction, but heaven felt silent. You waited for a sign, a whisper, a word, but all you got was stillness. That moment can shake even the strongest believer, because silence, especially divine silence, feels like abandonment. It feels like God has walked out of the room, leaving you standing in the dark, asking, "Lord, where are you?" But what if that silence has meaning? What if God's quiet is not absence, but presence in disguise? Today we're going deep into the mystery of divine silence, because sometimes God's silence speaks louder than words. Let's start with this truth. Every believer, no matter how strong, will face a season when God seems silent. Moses faced it in the wilderness. David cried, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever?" Even Jesus on the cross shouted, my God, why have you forsaken me?" If God's silence reached even his own son, then maybe silence isn't rejection. Maybe it's part of the journey. Divine silence often feels like distance, but in reality, it's a classroom. God uses silence to test your faith, to refine your trust, to teach you to walk by belief, not by feelings. Because faith that depends only on emotion isn't faith at all. It's dependency. But faith that holds on in the silence, that's trust, that's maturity, that's love that doesn't need proof to stay loyal. Now let's be real. When God is silent, your mind becomes the loudest battlefield. You start questioning everything. Did I sin? Did I lose his favor? Maybe I didn't pray enough. The silence feeds your doubts, and doubts feed your fears. You replay unanswered prayers in your mind. You compare your life with others who seem blessed, and slowly your heart begins to harden. But here's what's powerful. God's silence doesn't mean he stopped working. It means he's working in ways you can't yet see. In John 11, Jesus delayed when Lazarus was sick. To the sisters, he seemed silent. But in his silence, he was setting the stage for a miracle that would reveal his glory. Silence doesn't mean God's not listening. It often means, wait, I'm writing something greater. So let's talk about why God may be silent, because understanding the silence changes how you respond to it. 1. Silence for spiritual growth. Sometimes God withdraws his voice to strengthen your faith, just like a teacher stays quiet during the test. He wants to see if you've learned to trust what he's already taught. He's not gone. He's grading your trust. He's seeing if you'll still seek him when there's no emotional reward. 2. Silence for reflection. There are seasons when God steps back, not to punish you, but to help you see yourself clearly. We can't hear God's whisper over the noise of our own will, so he quiets everything until the only thing left is us and him. It's in that silence that your true heart is revealed. David wrote, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." Sometimes the silence is his way of answering that prayer. 3. Silence because of distraction. Let's be honest. We live surrounded by constant noise, notifications, opinions, endless scrolling. And we ask, why can't I hear God? But he's been speaking. We just haven't been still enough to notice. God doesn't compete with noise. He whispers to those who are still. He speaks to those who make room for him. 4. Silence for timing. And then there's divine timing. Sometimes God's silence isn't about you. It's about the right moment. If he answered now, you might not be ready. If he revealed everything now, you might rush destiny. So he holds the answer until the ground of your heart is ready to receive it. Remember Ecclesiastes 3:11. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Even his silence is part of the beauty. Let me tell you a story. A woman once told her testimony. She prayed for years for direction, for purpose. She begged God, use me, speak to me. But all she got was silence. Days turned into months, months into years. She started to believe maybe God had forgotten her. Until one day, she heard a sermon about the seed. The preacher said, when a seed is buried in the ground, it's surrounded by silence. No light, no sound, no movement. But in that silence, transformation is happening underground. That moment hit her. God wasn't ignoring her. He was planting her. And when the season was right, he opened doors she never imagined. Doors that required her to have the faith she built during his silence. Her testimony? If God had answered me sooner, I would have been unprepared. The silence wasn't punishment, it was preparation. So how do you respond when heaven seems quiet? 1. Keep praying. Even when you don't feel heard, pray anyway. Because prayer is not just about answers, it's about alignment. Every prayer shapes your spirit to reflect his will. 2. Go back to his word. When God seems silent, go back to what he already said. His word is his voice in written form. If you can't hear him in prayer, you'll find him in scripture. Be still and know that I am God. That's not a suggestion. It's an invitation. Silence is where knowing begins. 3. Remember his faithfulness. Look back at your life. Every past victory you've seen is proof that his silence now is not abandonment. It's strategy. He was faithful before. He will be faithful again. 4. Stay in community. God often speaks through people. Don't isolate yourself when he seems quiet. Sometimes the encouragement you need is waiting in a conversation, a message, or a sermon that reawakens your faith. Maybe right now you're in that silent season. You've prayed, you've waited, you've wept, and still nothing. Let me tell you this truth from Isaiah 45:15. Truly, you are a God who hides himself. But hidden does not mean absent. Silent does not mean still. When you can't hear his voice, trust his heart. When you can't trace his hand, hold on to his promises. Because God's silence often comes before his greatest move. He was silent before creation, then spoke, "Let there be light." He was silent for 400 years before Christ was born, and he was silent for 3 days after the crucifixion, before the stone rolled away. Every silence has a resurrection waiting behind it. So if you're in that quiet season, don't lose faith. Don't stop praying. Don't walk away. God's silence is not the end of the story. It's the space before the miracle. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt God was silent in your life? What did you learn from it? Share your experience in the comments. You might just encourage someone who's struggling right now. And if this message spoke to you, watch my next video on how to strengthen your faith when life feels unfair. Because silence is not where God leaves you. It's where he prepares you. Stay patient. Stay faithful. Because even in silence, God is still speaking.